Hi, good morning, friends new and old, friends to be. Let me know in the chat. This is something that I rarely do, but I'm so curious. One, like where you're logging in from, but also like what school you're from. And there's a poll, to fill out. And hi and welcome. I'm so glad to be here with you. We'll start very shortly, but I'll give you a second. There's a 15-second delay between when I'm talking and when you're hearing me because it's going through the interwebs of the internet tubes. I'm still not sure how that works. But hi, it's good to see you. I'm coming to you from chilly Los Angeles this morning. It is actually somewhat chilly, thus the hoodie. But I'm probably going to get some pushback for some grief from those of you who are in like for real, chilly parts of the country. Hi, Cassandra. Welcome and good morning. Stevie and Ashley on my team are here. Stevie's logging in from beautiful Asheville, which is where I was born. Fun fact. Oh, wow, awesome. Glenda, welcome. Logging in from Puerto Rico. Sweet. This is helpful. And the poll is especially helpful for me so I can know who I'm talking to. So it seems like 40% of you so far are public school counselors, 25% of you at private independent schools, and the rest are a smattering of working in other contexts. Awesome. Well, this is going to be a short, for the first section of today is going to be a short info session talking to you about this program we have called College Essay Guy Live. And then we're going to evolve it into a Q&A, which will be just sort of like basically a PD session. And this won't be sort of like one of those epic cram in a bunch of information, hour-long sessions that I have. This will probably be a little bit shorter than that, just FYI. But it just depends on how what we get into in the chat, in the Q&A. So hi and welcome. Happy Women's History Month, first of all. There was a great quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whose birthday would have been yesterday. Yesterday I read this quote. Let me make sure that I get it right. Let me make sure I get it. I had it pulled up here. There it is. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. And the reason I'm sharing this quote, particularly for me today, is I've been seeing leadership in different contexts in my personal life and in public life, where I see folks fighting for the things they care about. And some, I believe, are leading in a way that is inspiring others to join them. And I feel like in some contexts, people lead in a way that doesn't inspire folks to join them. Maybe you've seen something like this. So shout out to RBG on this beautiful Wednesday. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I want to talk you through this College Essay Guy Live, which used to be called College Essay Guy for schools and organizations, but that's kind of a long title. We feel like CEG Live is a little bit of a, easier to latch onto. And Steve, you're actually, my little square is so tiny in the small right corner, in the bottom right corner. Would you mind just making me a little bit bigger? That would be super awesome. Thanks. All right, so let's jump in. So CEG Live, and the link, I'll just throw the link in the chat so you can kind of see what I'm walking through here today, is a program we put together at the start of the pandemic, where basically we were trying to figure out, we had a bunch of requests for virtual workshops, and we thought, it'd be great if we could just meet with basically any school that wanted to do a college essay bootcamp style thing live, meaning, it's happening, students are responding, getting questions answered via, a virtual platform, all at once, sort of en masse. So we put together this bootcamp, and we've done it now this will be our third year doing it. And we've added a few different elements to it to basically make this sort of like your College Essay Guy Prime. We haven't started a Prime thing, meaning like if you use Amazon Prime, it's sort of like, well, I don't know how I, looking back, it's like, I don't know how I went without it. So we want this to be really easy and comprehensive for schools to use. And then basically what the elements are, I don't know why this is the little how-to video, the walkthrough expired. So it's summer college essay workshops, and I'm doing one on the personal statement and the dates. I'll share the dates in just a few minutes. I'm doing one on the college application and supplemental essays, a little 3-day boot camp on that. And then for those of you who are in California or have students applying to California, we have the one on the UC Personal Insight questions. In addition to that, and again, I'll share dates in just a minute, we've got PDs for teachers, for counselors, for like your whole counseling team can come, and it walks students through different parts of the process. Like, how do you write the personal statement? How do you get students brainstorming and thinking about what they want to write about? How do you help students revise? How do you help students work on the activities list and the why us? And so there are a series of those that are starting in 2 weeks, actually. And then probably the biggest part of this, and I think the thing that's maybe the most useful for, especially for students who are self-driven, is I've got a really comprehensive tool, which I'll walk you through in just a minute, that is both for students so that they can get a lot of their questions answered and kind of walk through the process. But also there are a bunch of resources for you as a counselor that I'll walk you through in just a minute. So who's it for? It's for counselors. I mean, it's mostly for, those of you who are here today. There are, I guess, some independent consultants who have been interested in this, but this is made for those of you with medium to large caseloads who are just like, I don't have time to meet with my students one-on-one and do a bunch of sessions with them. So this is really to get them started and give them the tools they need to keep going through the process. Okay, so let me walk through some of the details of it. So the first thing that I mentioned, the How to Write the Personal Statement Bootcamp runs, we got 3 different options, and we tried to schedule them around different times at different parts of the year, or different schedules, depending on where you are in the country or in the world. Option 1 is coming up at the end of May and the start of June. Next option is mid-June, and the third option is the beginning of August. So I really love the summer. I think it's a great time for students to begin thinking about this. Some folks are like, that's a good time for me because that's kind of like when students are done with APs right before they head into the summer. This is when I used to get the most requests for like live in-person workshops personally. And I would be like, this is a great time to do it, but I can't be everywhere all at once. So this is kind of like, now folks can, we can, through the magic of the internet, we can, and I think I was doing sessions while the internet existed, by the way. But this allows, some different options for students, whether it's like at the end of the school year or at the start of their summer, or close to the end of the summer. Sessions happen Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we do 90-minute sessions. 60 minutes felt like a little bit tight. I do 60 minutes of content and usually like 30 minutes of Q&A so that students can, figure out how this applies to them, let it sink into their brains a little bit. And the times here listed are Pacific, 10 to 11:30 or 4 to 5:30. And different students can pick different times. So it's not like you have to have all of your students on the same thing. Students can kind of opt in, and we can answer questions about that at the end if you like. Day 1 is brainstorming, finding a topic. The ideal, is a student comes out of that first session with a couple different ideas and specific homework to generate more ideas or to generate potential outlines. And that's on Monday. On Wednesday, I go through outlining. I really walk them through, and I'll show you the details in just a minute, how to create a great outline from whatever idea they've come up with. And I give them a few different options for that. And then day 3, we talk about revising, and I give them a bunch of resources for once they're, Friday, if the students are really engaging with it, and they can engage sort of at different levels. So what I tell them is like the homework is optional, but highly encouraged so that they don't feel like totally overwhelmed, but that they feel, okay, I've got the tools to get started. In the revising and up-leveling section, I walk them through a bunch of tools that they'll need, no matter where they are, even if whether they're sort of still in the ideation phase, or maybe they've got a draft written by Friday and they're feeling like pretty good about it. It's going to give them some tools for next steps. And of course, we always say this, but if they can't make the live sessions, they can just watch the recording. I'll walk you through the tool in just a minute. I'm going to pause on that. The second part of this is this how to write the college application and supplemental essays. And I walk through, students sometimes get overwhelmed with the number of essays that they need to write when they are released in like August 1st to 15th, those supplements. So I walk them through a pretty simple process for organizing all of the essays that they'll need to write. And so they can look and go, oh, wow, I only have to write 6 major essays as opposed to like 20 or 30 major essays. I walk them through tips for the activities list. What is the additional info section and how do they use it? A cool video on the Why Us essay and kind of a crash course in like, how do you write this thing? What are colleges looking for with examples that they can follow? What about that extracurricular essay? And how does that fit in with my personal statement? So I walk them through that. Then I've got basically guides to many of the universities that students will be applying to, not all of them, because smallish team, but many of the guides. If you can see a lot of those if you Google college essay guide, here's the guide. But letting students know how to use those guides and how those fit in with their larger application can be useful. Short answer questions for those schools that have them, and then a big picture exercise to make sure that their application is really showing them off in the best way they can. So that happens in mid-August, and again, recording sent. And then before that, this is kind of out of order, but not everybody is interested in the UCs. In July, we've got this UC Personal Insight Question boot camp, which basically walks students through the very different, different in some ways, application, and what are the UCs looking for. How do they write, those 13 points of, how do they answer it's 13. Stephen Ashley, we have to edit this because it's now 13 elements of comprehensive review. It used to be 14, but then no more test scores. So those personal insight questions are really important for helping show context and share context with the UCs. And I've got a whole tool, basically that walks students through how to write each of those different prompts with different outlining possibilities. And I'm happy to answer questions specifically about that if you've got, or any of these things in the Q&A. The PDs that I mentioned, we've got one coming up, which is a brief guide to brainstorming and helping students choose a personal statement topic. That's coming up in just a couple weeks. And then we try to space these a couple weeks apart when things are hopefully relatively kind of quiet. I know that it's coming up on decision day, but these are 1 hour PDs. The second one is on how do you help students figure out their outline. And then the third one is on giving students feedback. I've put together, and I'll share you some tools in just a minute, some tools inside this Choose Your Own Adventure tool for basically giving students feedback in a pretty efficient way. I've been talking about this a little bit on the online course that I'm leading right now, but hopefully you should be able to read an essay and give feedback within 5 to 8 minutes per essay and using this tool. And I'll share that in a second. And you can invite anybody in your department, anybody in the school. All the more, the merrier. The merrier. I've got inside this tool, I've also got this essay curriculum that you can use with students. Some good email templates for things that you can send out to your students to let them know that this thing is happening. And what else? I think that's it. This is kind of like a recap at the bottom of all the things that I just mentioned. Let me show you inside this tool. So welcome to the Choose Your Own Adventure tool. This is my brain on college essays. And the way that it works is students click Get Started, and then they're asked a pretty simple question. There's some context, but then they're asked to download this workbook. And when they click here, it opens up a Google Doc that they can make a copy of. And so students just go in the top corner, they click Make a Copy, and they make their own copy. And all of their essay work that they will be completing in the tool happens inside this doc. And there's a cool little, these are called anchor text, so that boom, zoom down to the values exercise. And then here's, for example, the brainstorming exercises that I guide them through. And it takes about 20, 25 minutes, but they can fill this in right here. And the reason I wanted students to do this all in one doc is that then when they're sharing their essay draft with you, for example, let's say they've written a montage essay, which is an essay that's not about challenges, they can write it right here. And then when it comes time, depending on how you work with students, they can just go up here to share and then share it with your email. And boom, you get this Google Doc that has all their brainstorming work. It's got their outlines and it's got their draft all in one place. So you don't have to, if you don't like the topic, say to them, but what other topics do you have? Because you can see them right there and you can see their thought process as they've gone through it. So the simple question that I ask students to begin is, have you faced challenges in your life, significant challenges or not so much? And if the answer is no, which is the truth for many students, I encourage the montage path, which is here. And if they have faced significant challenges, I encourage them to try out the narrative path. Now, ultimately, I think that students who have faced challenges should also brainstorm non-challenges based essays. And so I think that students who have faced challenges should do both. But I think students haven't faced challenges, there are so many different ways that they can write an essay, and they click montage path. And once they click montage path, there's a series of videos that walks them through. Here's a 3-minute video, they hit play. Or if they don't want to watch videos, they can just click here and it walks them through what is a montage essay? How does it work? And then they click next module and it walks them through how to brainstorm their content. So this is a 24-minute video that they complete, that they listen to live and they walk through. Now, on the course, just to be clear, I'm going to be walking them through pieces of this tool. So what this tool is basically the curriculum and the hopefully all-in-one question answerer when students have questions, follow up. But when we're doing the live session on Monday, I'm walking them through this 25-minute video. If they need to go back and watch it, they can come back in here. But essentially, at the end of this, they should have some ideas about, what they could potentially write an essay on. And then I introduced them to these different paths, potential types of essays. And these paths were based on 300 past essays that I looked at when I was trying to figure out, are there any patterns? How are students arriving at their topics? And I found that there were some different paths that students were, using. For example, students are writing about something that they loved or knew a lot about, or they're writing about a career. And I kind of walk them through in a step-by-step way. If you're interested in writing this type of essay, here's how to do it. And then I offer more brainstorming exercises, etc. And so these all line up with the Monday, Wednesday, Friday online boot camp. So day 1, we do brainstorming. Day 2, we do outlining and writing. And day 3, we do revising. In a week, we're not really going to get into refining just yet. That's kind of quick to do that. But basically, after day 1, I walk them through part 1 and I say, here's your homework, finish module 1. And then on Wednesday, we do outlining and I walk them through the first part of this and I say, finish it for homework. And day 3, same thing. So this gives them, for students who haven't faced challenges or for students who have faced challenges, a really clear, here's what to do this day, what to do this day, what to do this day. When students, if they have questions about this, on this FAQ page, whatever they have questions about, they can sort of click this. So if they get into the outlining phase and they're like, do I need to outline? Here's an answer to that. And then there's answers to how do I outline? If you're writing a narrative, challenges-based essay, here's how to do that. It'll zip them into the tool. And then if they're writing one of these other types of what I call the montage essay, they can find an answer to that. When it comes to writing their first draft, how does the outline turn into a draft? I answer questions on that. Revising, how do I have a better opening for my narrative essay? Or what if my challenges aren't all that compelling? So I've tried to answer basically any questions that students would have inside this. But of course, some of these questions are going to come up right away. Students can answer their questions on the live session. My favorite part is this link. When you click counselors, so I've tried to design it in such a way that you can either have students take a college essay guide workshop like the one we're talking about and then go through the tool on their own, or I'd like to lead students through my own brainstorming workshop and then have students work through the tool on their own. Or I want to become more familiar with the tool so that I can become faster at diagnosing an essay issue and then pointing students to where they can, get help. And all of these things are great. This one is going to take a little bit more work because you'll have to kind of work through the tool on your own and get to know it a little bit. But for those of you who are interested in, for example, let's just pick this one. You want to have students work through the tool on their own and you want to do your own workshop. If you click here, you'll see a guide to essay workshops, which is basically just like a one-pager that's like, here's what I would do for each of these chunks. And here's links to show how I would lead this. Like if you are going to want to lead this on your own. And then here's a little downloadable PowerPoint template that you can take and put your name here and hat tip to College Essay Guy. Thanks for leaving the CEG stuff on it. But you can basically walk them through the exercises that I walk through on the boot camp, and you'll see all this is content that's obviously that connects to the tool. So that's a cool thing. And then other stuff that you'll find in here. If you're interested in using this tool as a college essay curriculum, so let's say you've got an English teacher who's like, hey, or you are an English teacher who's got, I want to do this over 4 weeks. There's a way to take the Choose Your Own Adventure tool and basically map out how would you run these 4 sessions. So day 1 is brainstorming. And this is a copy and paste template that you can use to share with students, hey, here's when we're going to be doing brainstorming. And these are the modules that are going to be relevant inside the tool. So it maps out each of those. So that's in here. Let me just show you again where this is. Again, I'm inside the tool and I've clicked counselors and I've clicked this one here. For those of you who are interested in being better and faster at giving students feedback, one of the things that I put together is on, and I'm going to talk about this on one of the PDs. So the PD that happens in a few weeks let's see, here it is. It's this one, A Brief Guide to Giving Great Essay Feedback. I'm going to basically jump inside the tool and walk you through this one, the Guide to Giving Great Essay Feedback. And this is a little mini walkthrough of how do you help students diagnose if a topic is good or not. That's what students ask, is the topic good or not? And then where to send them in the tool. If it's a great topic, great, send them here. If it's not so great, send them here. And then when it comes to helping students improve their drafts, there's a way to think about, how students are drafting their essays, how to diagnose what needs work in a particular draft, and then where to send them in the tool. The difference here is like, this is just if you're helping students know if a topic is good or not, like what is a rubric, not a rubric, but a frame for thinking about that. And this one is about actually getting into like an actual essay that a student has written. And this is the part where if you have 5 to 8 minutes, I think you can read through a draft and give a student some actionable feedback in just a few minutes. And there's a little walkthrough of how I do that or how I've done that before. In terms of tracking student progress, here's like a spreadsheet. This is just to show you some of the other stuff. Spreadsheets overwhelm you, I apologize. But we use this with students on an online bootcamp experience where students basically, we set up office hours. So a student would, for example, go to the live session with me. They would sort of get started, and then they would, the student counselors, you can set up like a separate session, which is like a live Zoom, office hours, where students drop in, and for whatever, an hour or 2 hours, whatever time you want to set aside, a student can meet, for example, with you in a main Zoom room, and they can get feedback. But if they've got some private stuff that they want to work on and talk about, you have a separate second person who meets in breakout rooms with students who want to meet individually. And the great thing about that is that students kind of like, it's a co-working session. Students are learning from feedback that you're giving to others, which, by the way, works pretty well. And not every student is going to want to share, so we make sure that we get permission to review their essays live. But for those who are willing to and who are interested in that, it can be pretty cool and pretty powerful to, for some of you are like, no, that's way, my kids would never do that. But I don't know, you might be surprised. So there's a way of sort of organizing those as you're thinking through things. Other things that are in here that I'm not going to get into right now is like a guide to cliche topics, which is how do you help a student who's stuck on their, whatever it is, essay about a grandparent or essay about a particular extracurricular activity. How do you help them get unhooked from that topic? And usually the short answer is like, help them come up with other cool topics. And I've got some cool exercises for that. And then inside, you'll also see a link to a ton of different example essays. So I don't mean to overwhelm you, but for each of these different, one of the cool things about the tool is that like, I have kind of like I don't want to say encyclopedic knowledge, but I have this library of essays in my head when I'm looking at student essays, and I'm like, ooh, this kind of feels like, could be like an identities type essay. And I'll send a student a link. I'll just like scroll down to like, it's kind of like this identities type essay, and I'll send it over to them, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that does seem kind of cool. I could maybe do some different identities for myself. And so this is sort of like just a quick reference guide for sample essays. And then what else? I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to ping here. I think that's pretty much it. we tried to keep this page pretty simple, but also, for counselors, if you have a question about any of these things, like, how do I help a student revise? And well, what's the issue? Is that the challenges aren't that compelling? Is it that their examples aren't that strong? And so there's a little, again, I'm thinking of this sort of the pharmacist metaphor. You diagnose it. Okay, well, what is they need more insights. Okay, great. Click here. And then it brings them into here, 10 more ways to bring insight into your essay. So what I encourage, and this is more in the, how do you revise the students, but like, let's say you want a student to bring more, insight into their essay. What I do is I just copy and paste this into a Google Doc comment and say, hey, I'd love for you to try and up-level these insights. Here are 10 different ways to do that. And it explains what insight is. And then it gives them 10 different ideas on how to make their personal statement more insightful. This is for those students who've written a pretty good draft. It's pretty clear the logical flow and structure, but you're just kind of like, I don't know, something's kind of missing. And this will hopefully not only improve their essays, but my goal here is to get them to become more critical thinkers, and come up with more uncommon ideas. So I'm going to pause there because I think that's pretty much all the things. Oh, one thing you're probably wondering about is how much does this cost? I'll scroll down. So it's pay what you can. It's free to students. It's pay what you can for schools and organizations. And if your school has just no budget, pick $0. If your school has some budget and you can pay $197, awesome. If your school definitely has a budget, thank you. $497 is the price. So this is what we think it's worth. But I want to just make this really easy for folks to access. Here's where the money goes. A third of it goes to our Matchlighter scholarship, which helps offer free, basically, essay and application help to low-income students who come knocking on our door and say, hey, I want free essay help. And so we've got a team of counselors who, and by team, I mean 500 counselors who have volunteered. Maybe you who are on this call volunteered to meet with a low-income student. In fact, quick plug for Matchlighters. Let me just throw this in the chat box. If you don't know about this program, it's opening very soon. But basically, students from low-income households are paired up with a high school or college counselor. We pair you up one-to-one, and we do pre-work so that students are vetted. We make sure that they're definitely low income. They show SAT waiver or something like that, and then we pair you up on a one-to-one basis, and you go and work. If you have students that you think might qualify for this, send them our way, because we want to make sure that we get tons of students. In the past, there have been certain years where we've had more counselors than students, believe it or not. So you can either send students to us or volunteer as a counselor if you want. So anyway, a third of the money goes to that. A third of the money goes to givewell.org, which is an amazing company, or it's not company, organization. If you don't know about GiveWell, know about GiveWell. This is basically, they contribute to the charities that are doing the most good in the world. This is based on some work done by a guy named Toby Ord and William McCaskill. There's a great book called Doing Good Better. I think that's what it's called, oh gosh, I should have had this ready to go, but it's a book that I read now at the start of the pandemic. But amazing organization, and a third helps go to costs basically. So that's it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pause there and see thoughts, reflections, impact, questions. Sip of tea. I'm doing this 15-second pause because that's the way this platform works. And you feel free to ask me questions about either this program in particular, if you want. So logistic stuff, happy to answer. Or if you want to go, hey, here's an essay thing that I deal with students, I'm so happy to answer that too. Yeah. Janet's asking for the dates. You got it. Let me just put this into the chat. So the options. And I'll just share my screen again right quick so you have it. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Here we go. Here are the dates. And we'll email you this as well. Whoops. That looks weird. There we go. But here you go. End of May, middle of June, beginning of August for the personal statement one. And then actually, you know what? I can scroll to the bottom because we put this all right at the bottom. There we go. UCs in July, and then application and supplements in August. We got a testimonial from Barbara. Our school has participated in students who attended did beautifully on their essay process. Yes, we're going to totally ask you if we can use that as a testimonial, Barbara. Reduces stress and focuses students on such wonderful approaches. Thanks for that shout out, Barbara. I appreciate that. Unsolicited, no less. Trish, I'm so glad to meet you. Thanks. Welcome. And if you've got questions if you're a new counselor and you're feeling overwhelmed, and you're like, what should I be sending students when and where? Let me share with you another resource here. Email templates for busy counselors. So this is a set of email templates that we put together, and I'll put this in the chat as well, where counselors can go to basically like it's March right now. And let's say you want to email your juniors and you're like, what should I send my juniors? So here's March 11th graders. Here is how to create a great college list, a resource for this, and here are some different tools for building your college list. Scholar Matcher, college advising for undocumented students. I'm first, lots of stuff for different types of students. And so it's basically a set of templates for, it's really a Google, if you click here, you'll see that it's a Google Drive folder that's sorted by month and sorted by grade. And then there's also an all grades email. So if you email all of your students at once, here's stuff for 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders. And not a lot of folks know about this. We promoted it, but not everybody heard about this. So that's why I wanted to talk about it here. The other one, if you go to the website, you'll see if you happen to be a public school or charter school counselor and you're looking for resources, here's our public and charter school counselors resource hub. I'll put this in the chat as well. Check this out. Here's templates for office essentials. So these kinds of templates are the email templates that I just mentioned. Also social media templates. So when you're trying to figure out how do I promote such and such thing, you just click use template. And when you click in here, whatever the name of your event is here, here's the date and time. Here's your logo if you want to put it. Here's the agenda. And we've got a few different options here to make it super easy for you to promote stuff. Because I know that takes some time, but it doesn't have to. And counselors are busy. You don't have time to create flyers, but and these take 10 minutes. Hopefully when you get adept with them, it only takes 2 minutes because you just switch out some details once you've created one, and you can create a fabulous looking flyer in just a few minutes. What else? Oops, I got to go back. I got to click back. Here's how I find this. Charter, school, hub. Here, this is literally how I find this. College essay guy. I don't need to type in college essay guy, but here it is again. When you're trying to figure out, let's see, for example, creating a school profile. So there's a whole thing. I don't know if your school profile might be on point and up to date, but if it's not, here's how to do that. Here's a teacher recommendation request form. How to get to know your students really fast. Here's a nice student questionnaire. One for parents and guardians if you need one. There's a whole guide, like a whole timeline, for what should students be doing at different times. There's a, download a simple college application info tracker with a 9th grade timeline, 10th grade timeline. Anyway, you get the idea. There's stuff on how to create a great college list. We've got a course coming up on this. That's Pay What You Can that we just put the word out this morning. But it's with the person who helped me develop this resource, Stephen Antonoff, who literally wrote the book on college finding, the College Finder author. And I've got a podcast with him. So there's a resource on that. And then the other thing that I think it's linked here, but if it's not, if you go to Hub for, let's see, we've got different hubs. This is the main, hub for students, where it walks them through all of the resources that they'll need. So this is one that I talk about on the boot camps, but this gives them a lot of stuff like, how do you write about COVID-19 in your essay application? Of course, I talk about that on the boot camp, but one of the main things, like here's the big one, school-specific supplemental essay guides. So check this out. This one is for, students who are applying to all of these schools, right? So it's like, if you're applying to Rice, you click Rice, and then here's how to write the essays for this particular year. Obviously, we update this as soon as the prompts come out, but it walks them through all the different prompts. It gives a little analysis. It gives them an example. And then here's some tips based on that. And forgive me for the schools that we didn't include. We actually did it based on what's most Googled because we got to, focus our energies. But it walks students through all these different pieces. And then at the bottom, let me just show you this, how to write a scholarship essay. We've got a really comprehensive guide on that. And then for students who are applying to art school, who are athletes, applying to HBCUs or tribal colleges, undocumented students, all this is on the College Application Hub. And if you happen to be international, meaning you are from outside the US, applying to inside the US, things are a little bit different. So there are some things that, students from outside the US are going to need to know. Things like, here's some mistakes that international students make when they're applying to school. And then there's a whole separate financial aid guide for international students. And it's really comprehensive. Tiffany and Emily, who put that together, did a really nice job. And then how much does it actually cost? Are there options that are under $10,000 a year? So anyway, I know I'm kind of doing the thing that I said I wasn't going to do, which is like helping you with resources, but we'll follow up with these. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that these things existed on the website because some folks don't. Other questions? And will you remind me, Ashley or Stevie, that I should just do a little short video for the counselor page that just walks folks through what I just did? Because I think that that could be really useful so that folks could kind of see where things are on the site. Yeah. Ooh, there's something in Q&A. Ba-dum-bum-bum. You're so welcome, Kara or Kara. Yeah, I see Ashley's answering some of these questions, so I won't answer the ones that have been answered. Any other questions? Anything college essay related, or I don't know. I'm here. I'll be your magic 8-ball for college essays, at least. Not other things. I could just randomly give you an answer. Too soon to tell, like my magic 8-ball, but mostly college essays is what I spend my time thinking about and working on. Well, let's keep it short. You know, someone wiser than I once said, a meeting should be as long as it should be. And so if there are no big questions, then I'm going to let you go back to your day and do your thing. If you've got specific questions, you can email us at help@collegeessayguide.com. Ashley is going to follow up with all the resources that I shared with you and how to sign up. I hope that y'all will take advantage of this. If you've got folks that you want to share this with, other counselors, please spread the word. And we'd love to let more students know about this. So let's see, can we sign up students directly or does it have to be through a counseling program? Yeah, Ashley will answer that question. Oh, now questions are coming in. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Ooh, now some questions are coming in. It's that weird delay. Can we sign up students? Katrina, Ashley will answer your question. Amy, if we use your resources in our private IEC, do we send your materials to our students? Email us about that, Amy. That's something that we're working out right now in terms of like pricing for the Choose Your Own Adventure tool. So we're literally trying to figure out that this week. So we need to resolve that, but just email us. It'll get you on our radar. Actually, you know what? Wait like a week and a half to email us because then we'll have it resolved and there will be like the system will fully be set up or hopefully set up to let you know how to sign up if you are an IEC. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, friends. It's great to see you. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Wednesday. And yeah, talk soon. Bye.